Good evening. My name is Pete Tanya, and I am your Benefit Fund's Executive Director. Welcome to the second webinar, Preparing for Retirement. And for those of you who attended the first webinar, you saw that it's important to know and understand the benefits that you have earned as a union carpenter. And tonight, you'll see it's important to plan for retirement. There'll be a lot of information we're presenting tonight regarding investments, but we are not providing you a class on investments, rather an introduction to some of the terminology around investments and planning for retirement. With me tonight is Paul Furlong. Paul is a financial advisor from Janney Montgomery Scott, who will review with you a whole range of topics that he would discuss with a potential client. Paul will tell you that they have had a number of happy carpenter clients for many years, and he'll also tell you a little bit about himself and his firm before talking about retirement planning. But neither Paul nor Janney Montgomery Scott are endorsed by the union or the benefit funds, and neither of them will be trying to sell you any of their investment products tonight. The idea of having a professional like Paul is to present to you some key aspects of retirement planning and what a financial advisor can do for you. We don't guarantee their investment performance, but what we do know is that they are from a reputable investment company, and we have received a lot of positive feedback and comments from other carpenter families. So what is the message that we are trying to relay to you tonight? Well, it's simple. Start planning for retirement. Whether you are 10 years away or a month away, start planning and considering some of the items that we're going to discuss tonight and see how they fit into you and your family's plans. And if you have already engaged in planning or setting up your own plan, which we know many of you have, or you already met with a professional financial planner and are working towards a goal, that's great. And we hope tonight will be a reinforcing message for you. And you can still use tonight's presentation as a resource and bounce some questions off of Paul and his team. But more importantly, if you haven't, and I'll provide you statistics later that will tell you that most people don't, we hope to encourage you to get off the couch, so to speak, and engage with a financial professional that you will feel comfortable with and begin the process. Our goal is to have you come to the retirement appointment at the fund office after 20 to 30 years of working in the trade and being prepared to sign the paperwork with excitement, knowing which elections to choose and being ready to start your new journey, retirement. Too often, we see couples come to the appointments still unsure which option to choose, whether they should retire today or wait a couple months, asking the fund office for advice. And we have heard of horror stories of recent graduating retirement carpenters who did not plan ahead and thought that they could take the single life pension option and supplement it with an insurance policy, only to be denied the insurance policy because of an underlying health issue that they didn't even know they had. These are sad stories, but they are true, and they can be avoided by taking care of all the research before you sign your retirement papers. Because as you know, and we stated this in the first webinar, once you sign the retirement papers, there is no changing them thereafter. So the message we want to share with you tonight is start planning for retirement sooner than later. And the more time you give yourself, the less stressful the retirement will be. Many retirees are unsure how to turn their retirement savings and pension entitlements into sustaining retirement income. In fact, the number one concern of most retirees is how can they maintain their current standard of living without running out of money in retirement. The truth is, people are retiring earlier and living longer, and the quality of a person's retirement lifestyle depends in large on the financial decisions they make today. And the reality is that retirees can expect to spend 20 to 30 years or more in retirement. And for many, this is an exciting yet overwhelming time in which several important decisions must be made. The average retiree needs approximately 80% of their pre-retirement income in order to maintain their current standard of living. And a recent Schwab Retirement Plan Services survey of 401k plan participants found that participants, almost 87%, are more likely to have someone change the oil in their car than to have someone help them choose a 401k investment, only 24% reached out. And the statistic that I shared with you in the first seminar is that less than 56% of US workers try to determine how much money they will need to save to achieve their retirement goals. But retirement planning is more than simply having enough money, and now is the time to imagine your future and plan how you want to live. So you've made a wise decision in joining us tonight. Your union and fund office wants professionals like Paul to address these and other issues that you will face in retirement and to begin planning accordingly. The agenda for tonight is simple. A reputable financial advisor will talk to you tonight about a range of topics to do with investments and planning for retirement. He will review the process they typically follow when they meet with a new client and the kind of questions that they will ask in order to draft a financial plan. He will also provide you an overview to Social Security, income versus expenses, survivor benefits, and the things to consider should you pass before your spouse, and lastly, taxes, and how to make sure you account for taxes and don't forget about Uncle Sam. And after the presentations tonight, you'll be able to direct your questions to Paul during the live Q&A period. And if anyone would like a copy of tonight's presentation, please know that we will be emailing it to everyone who signed up for the webinar, and it will also be posted on the fund's website. If you have questions during the presentation, please type them into the question box. This slide is showing examples of where you will find the question box, depending if you're using a home laptop computer or a mobile device. The fund staff will be monitoring the questions during the presentation, and we will answer as many questions as we can at the end. Because we've had an overwhelming response to this seminar and so many people in attendance, we may need to filter and limit some of the questions. So if your question is not listed and answered, we will try and follow up with you directly in the next couple of days. So with that, let me turn it over to Paul.
Hello and welcome everyone to tonight's virtual presentation of Retirement Awareness Phase 2, titled Retirement is Just Ahead. My name is Paul Furlong from Janney Montgomery Scott, and I'd like to thank you for this opportunity to present to you some very important concepts regarding financial planning, Social Security benefits, investing, and risk. You should commend yourselves for participating in tonight's presentation because it shows that you are taking this major step into retirement seriously. The Gormley Furlong Wealth Advisory Group is an 8-person financial planning and wealth management team working out of Janney Montgomery Scott's Yardley, Pennsylvania office. We have been working together with retiring carpenters since 2001, and we are genuinely grateful for this relationship. Janney is a leading financial services firm dedicated to putting clients' needs first. We are committed to providing the best in financial and investment advice to help our clients reach their personal and business goals. We focus on building strong relationships supported by a foundation of trust and performance and can provide advice to individual, corporate, and institutional clients. Janney lives its values, delivering with integrity, driving for results, keeping people at the center, and exceeding expectations. With roots tracing back to 1832, Janney provides wealth management and advisory services to individuals, families, and institutions, both public and private. With over $90 billion in assets under management, Janney has over 120 offices located primarily in the eastern U.S., employing over 2,100 professionals. Janney offers a comprehensive range of wealth management services for individuals, businesses, and business owners, including those shown on this page. Tonight, we will cover the following topics: financial planning and why a comprehensive financial plan is important. Next, we'll discuss Social Security and what you need to know in order to make an informed decision. And lastly, we'll look at topics on investments, such as asset allocation and behavioral finance. Please know that there will be time at the end to ask any questions you may have. We recommend that you write down your questions as we go along. Now let's get started. As you will discover in today's presentation, proper planning provides answers to important questions and solves problems. There are countless questions that are answered through a comprehensive plan. We believe it is one of the most profitable investments you can make. There are many institutions that offer financial planning at no cost. The only investment required is your time, and the return can be substantial. A properly developed financial plan will arm you with the knowledge required to make insightful decisions throughout your retirement years. This slide shows you some of the many questions that can be answered, such as, what return do I need on my investments to ensure I don't run out of money? Can I afford to buy a beach house or a mountain house? If so, how much money should I put down and how much should I borrow? Is this rental property a smart investment? Should I borrow and how should I finance it? When should I retire? What effect would it have on my plan if I worked one more year? What if my spouse were to work one more year? Should I convert some of my IRA to a Roth IRA? When should I take Social Security? How will inflation and the rising cost of living affect my plan? When is the best time for me to start taking distributions from my savings? How much should I withhold in taxes? A well-constructed plan can answer these questions in a much more meaningful way because a comprehensive plan is based on your personal situation, your income, your expenses, and your tax brackets, along with countless other variables that pertain only to you. For example, you will see throughout this presentation, your taxes depend not only on the amount of your income, but also the source of that income. A well-built plan provides you with the necessary tools that allow you to make adjustments, delivering results that will guide you to make the best decisions for you and your family. Expenses are the most logical place to start any financial plan because they are the backbone to understanding how you want to live your lifestyle. It is very important when reviewing your expenses to be realistic. Remember, you want to enjoy your retirement years. We recommend you devote ample time listing your expenses. Time in detail pays off here. Don't be afraid to include everything. If you are married, we strongly suggest you make it a couples exercise. We can provide you with a detailed template of expenses that we recommend you review to help ensure you do not leave anything out. It is also essential that your plan assumes a certain rate of inflation throughout your retirement years. Over time, the cost of living goes up, and we want to project how much things will cost well into your later years. This equation, though very simple, should be accurate. In other words, if you're not spending it, then you must be saving it. If you find that you have income that exceeds your expenses, including taxes, but you're not saving any money, you should definitely review your expenses again to ensure that they are accurate. Many times we find that clients underestimate things like dining out, vacation spending, gifts during the holidays, and average annual home maintenance costs. A thorough financial planner will try to assist you in measuring these costs. Try to think about your appliances such as a dishwasher, washing machine, hot water heater as examples. Also, you will certainly need a new driveway or roof at some point. Assume that these types of investments may last about 10 to 20 years. We encourage you to think about how many trips you take to Home Depot. When estimating the discretionary category, think how entertainment items such as movies, dining out, and sporting events and other fun money factor into your preferred lifestyle. Annual gifts can be one of the trickier expenses to calculate. However, it is important to have a handle on a reasonable annual expectation. If you find that you need to take more from your investments than planned, it is healthier to adjust your investments earlier in your retirement than later because this allows annual compounding over time to help you. Again, don't be afraid to list everything. Now let's talk about income. Income may, at first, seem straightforward. However, several factors that will affect your income over time are inflation, taxes, and your decisions regarding when to take Social Security. The main sources of income for a retiring carpenter typically are wages from both the spouse and the carpenter, carpenter's pension, spouse may also have a pension, Social Security for both the spouse and the carpenter, other things like interest, dividends, and capital gain from investments, IRA distributions, and perhaps rental income. Here are some of the more commonly asked questions regarding income. When should I start taking Social Security? Should I work after I retire? If so, how much of a difference would it make to my plan if I worked 40 hours a month in retirement? When should I start taking distributions from my IRA or savings? Another question may be, what are the after-tax effects to our income and savings if my spouse continues to work after I retire? I would like to spend a little time on helping you understand your pension and how to make the survivor choice that is best for you and your spouse. This is without question one of the most important decisions you will have to make. It can have a profound impact on your retirement and your spouse's financial security. Regardless of which choice you make, you have to remember also that this choice is permanent. Your survivor options should be reviewed well in advance of the day you sign your retirement paperwork. This decision requires some planning calculations and affects the income both you and your spouse will receive during your retirement, as well as the amount your spouse would receive if you were to pass away before your spouse. In order to provide you with the best answer to the question, which survivor option should I choose, it really helps to understand that the survivor option benefit is like a form of insurance. Just like insurance, it has a cost, which we will discuss. In order to calculate the cost of each survivor option, we recommend that you take the difference between the single life option and compare it to each joint and survivor option. Then multiply the result by 12. This will give you the annual cost. The benefit of the 100% survivor option is clear. This provides your spouse with the largest amount of income should you pass away. However, each option should be viewed as an expenditure, and like all expenses, you should carefully consider your options and choose the desired coverage. We strongly recommend that your decision be made based on your surviving spouse's needs. To properly estimate your spouse's needs, you should adjust your estimated income and expenses, assuming only your spouse is alive. Important items to consider when making these adjustments are as follows. Expense categories such as home maintenance, transportation, medical expenses, vacations, dining out, and cash will most likely change. Home maintenance may increase if you need to hire a contractor for maintenance or repairs of the home, since the spouse no longer has a carpenter around to take care of those needs. Transportation expenses such as fuel costs, repairs, and car insurance would likely be reduced, given only one car will be needed. Medical expenses may either increase or decrease, since your spouse's medical insurance coverage will no longer be provided by the union after a certain period of time. Vacations and spending money could also drop. All of these adjustments provide your spouses with what we call survivor expenses, and these expenses are used to develop a future financial plan for your surviving spouse. Once your surviving spouse's financial plan has been formulated, we can then review alternatives to life insurance and/or pension survivor options. These alternatives should be reviewed before making any decision to determine the best way to protect your surviving spouse. Other things to consider may include reductions in expenditures such as possibly downsizing the home, selling a second home or rental property. Perhaps your surviving spouse may consider working longer after you've passed away. After these have been exhausted, you should consider the insurance you need and the form of insurance that is right for you and your spouse. Again, we strongly recommend that you analyze this well in advance of the day you sign your retirement paperwork. Proper planning will provide you with your projected income, your projected expenses, and the required growth rate of your portfolio balances. It is very likely that you will need to take distributions from your portfolio to meet your needs at some point in the future. The amount you will need is what we refer to as your distribution rate. Your distribution rate is simply the amount of money you take from your savings in a particular year divided by your average savings balance. It is a percentage, and it's just as important to your retirement success as the rate of return on your investments. You should be aware of your distribution rate and your investment rate of return. The amount you need from your savings has an enormous impact on the lifespan of your savings. You should be aware of the amount, expressed as a percentage, that you will need to withdraw from your savings. Generally, the rules of thumb will be to take no more than 4% from your portfolio per year when you are in your 50s, take no more than 5% per year during your 60s, no more than 6% per year in your 70s, and 7% and 8% in your 80s and 90s. There is a growing number of people living well into their 90s. Now, let's delve into taxes, penalties, and exceptions. Income taxes, including any penalties, will depend on the source, amount, and timing of your income. We are referring to distributions from your IRA. Proper planning can help you reduce and sometimes even eliminate unnecessary taxes and penalties. Communication between you, your financial advisor, and your accountant about your plan should provide the proper guidance you need. Income taxes are typically the largest portion of your total expenses. A direct rollover is the direct transfer of assets from one retirement plan to another, such as a direct rollover of your union funds to a self-directed IRA. A direct rollover is not taxable. It is important to remember that any time you take distributions from your retirement plan that are not a direct transfer, they are always taxable. It is also important to know that if you take a lump sum distribution from your union retirement plan before the age of 55, you will also incur a penalty. Once those funds are rolled into an IRA, any distributions from your IRA prior to the age of 59 and a half, you will also incur a penalty. When you retire, if you are 55 years or older and think you may want to take some money from your union plan before rolling the funds to an IRA, be sure you fully understand the potential taxes and/or penalties. One of the exceptions to the early withdrawal penalty are distributions made as part of a series of substantially equal periodic payments made over your life expectancy. These are called SEPP or 72T distributions. For example, 72T income can be used to make scheduled loan payments. 72T income must continue for at least 5 years or to age 59 and a half, whichever is longer. It is important that your financial advisor fully understand the IRS rules. We can certainly run these calculations for you and work with your tax advisor to see if the SEPP distributions are right for you. If you are considering paying off debt with a lump sum distribution, proper planning with your tax and financial advisor can help you decide if paying off the balance with a lump sum distribution before rolling the funds, or if making accelerated payments through the SEPP exclusion is preferable. If you plan on starting a small business after you retire, you can roll the funds to a 401k plan sponsored by that company and borrow up to $50,000 or 50% of the plan balance, whichever is less. This is not a taxable event. However, the loan would need to be repaid typically over a 5-year period. The taxes you will owe when you retire depend on the source of the income and the total amount of income you receive. Proper planning and communication between your financial and tax advisor can help you decide from which source you should receive the income needed. Each state has its own tax nuances, which we would be happy to discuss with you along with your tax preparer. For many retirees, Social Security is an important source of retirement income. On average, Social Security benefits make up more than a third of your income. Even if your Social Security benefits represent a small portion of your overall retirement income, we strongly recommend that you plan carefully so you can optimize your benefit. Let's get started by looking at some questions many people have about their Social Security retirement benefits. For example, where do Social Security benefits fit in my retirement planning? What benefits might I expect? When should I start receiving benefits? How can I maximize my benefits? Social Security benefits provide you with a reliable fixed income. Though personal and retirement investments tend to offer better opportunities for growth, they tend to generate less consistent income. Unlike your union pension, Social Security benefits include annual cost of living increases each year based on increases in consumer price index for urban wage earners and clerical workers. Because Social Security benefits continue to provide a steady return, even when investment markets are down, they can act as a stabilizing factor, offsetting some of the volatility of stock and bond investments. For a better idea of what your benefits will be, take a look at your Social Security statement on the Social Security Administration's website. Be sure to go to www.ssa.gov. This slide shows you how to access your Social Security statement. We recommend you share this information with your financial planner to assist you in preparing your financial plan. Your monthly Social Security benefit is calculated by using your 35 highest years of earnings. Those 35 years are averaged together, then divided by 12 and applied to a formula to determine your PIA, or primary insurance amount. Your PIA is the amount you would receive if you choose to start receiving your benefit at full retirement age, and it appears on your Social Security statement under the title, Amount You Will Receive at Your Full Retirement Age. If you don't qualify for Social Security retirement benefits on your own work record or have low earnings, you may be able to receive a spousal benefit of up to half of your spouse's full benefit. You'll receive half if you don't qualify for benefits on your own. Otherwise, the spousal benefit is basically the difference between your lower benefit and one half of your spouse's benefit. For example, if your benefit is $800 a month and your spouse's benefit is $2,000 a month, your spousal benefit would be $200 for a total benefit of $1,000. The spousal benefit is available if you're at least 62 years of age and your spouse is receiving or is eligible for retirement benefits. Divorced individuals who are married at least 10 years and are unmarried may claim spousal benefits based on their ex-spouse's work records. Also, widows and widowers may claim benefits based on their deceased spouse's work records. For many people, when to start benefits is an important, if not the most important, Social Security decision. Which age you decide to begin receiving benefits will substantially affect the amount of your monthly payments. While people tend to think of 65 as retirement age, for a majority of workers, it's not, at least where Social Security retirement benefits are concerned. The table shows when full benefits are available based on the year you were born. You may begin collecting benefits as early as 62. However, your benefit will permanently be reduced by 70 to 75% of your full benefit. Taking benefits before your full retirement age also permanently reduces any spousal benefit you may be entitled to. Here's an example of what the benefit reduction could mean in terms of actual dollars. The graph shows a monthly Social Security retirement benefit of $2,861 for someone taking their Social Security at their full retirement age of 66. However, if that person decides to take their benefit at age 62, instead of waiting until their full retirement age, their monthly benefit would be reduced to $2,145 per month. On the other hand, you may want to consider waiting to claim your benefits until after you reach full retirement age. For each year after your full retirement age that you defer taking Social Security, up to age 70, you earn what are called delayed retirement credits, which increase your future benefit by 8% annually in addition to any yearly cost of living adjustments. As this graph illustrates, waiting until age 70 to collect benefits could increase that $2,861 monthly benefit in the previous example by $931 to $3,792. Moreover, if you continue working and delay taking Social Security, you might increase the earnings on which future Social Security benefits will be calculated. Delaying Social Security benefits isn't the only way to maximize them. Depending on your age and marital status, you may be able to take advantage of other strategies to make the most of your and your spouse's benefits. Let's look at several different situations. Under the new regulations, when an individual suspends his or her benefits, he or she will also suspend all benefits payable to other individuals based on their earnings record, including spousal benefits. This means the previous strategy for maximizing a couple's earnings is no longer feasible. Under the rules in Section 831 of the Act, when a person now files for benefits, they will be expected to file for both individual and spousal benefits. According to the standard rules of Social Security, anytime someone applies for multiple benefits, they simply receive whichever provides the biggest benefit. The effective date for the new rule is slightly different for a restricted application. Anyone born in 1953 or earlier, turning 62 years or older this year, will be grandfathered under the current rules. This means if you're already receiving a spousal benefit under a restricted application, you may continue to do so. If you're not yet receiving a spousal benefit, but plan to do so, you can still do so even up to the full retirement age. This may seem somewhat complicated. Be sure to work with your financial planner to assist you in making the right decision for you and your spouse. We would be more than happy to analyze this for you. Now let's spend some time on the final segment of this presentation, investments. Assuming that you've spent the essential time and energy with your financial planner to build your own customized financial plan, we should be able to, with a high degree of accuracy, hone in on a targeted rate of return that you will need to achieve financial planning success, solvency, and dignity through your retirement years. Based on our many years of experience while planning for retiring carpenters, we have found that the average rate of return required for a successful plan is typically between 5 to 6% per year. Please know that this is for illustrative purposes only and based on averages. Let's say that we have calculated your targeted rate of return to be between 5 to 6% per year. As you are probably aware, generating a 5 to 6% per year average is not without certain risks and considerable patience, especially in today's investment world. In today's interest rate environment, bank deposits will pay at best 0.5%. Therefore, we must consider investments like stocks and bonds in order to achieve your targeted goal. To many people, attempting to achieve a rate of return between 5 and 6% may seem overwhelming, very concerning, and quite intimidating, especially because of historical volatility and uncertainty. As a matter of fact, most investors, when left to their own devices, rarely ever achieve their targeted rate of return. In a recent study by Dalbar and Associates, the average equity fund investor averaged only 3.64% per year over rolling 10-year periods versus the S&P 500's returning 6.95% over the same time frame. So we must ask ourselves, why does this happen? Their behavior is the reason most investors do not get the returns they need. We have found that unsuccessful investors tend to fall into two distinct categories. They are either too scared or they are too greedy. Typically, investors pile into the stock market when stock markets are high, then sell their investments after the stock market has dropped. Back in the 1950s, a brilliant man from the business school at the University of Chicago named Harry Markowitz set out to tackle this behavioral dilemma that had been plaguing investors for years. Mr. Markowitz spent about 40 years analyzing thousands of different investments and how they performed over the course of many years of history, especially during challenging times like world wars, recessions and depressions, assassinations, stock market crashes, and other domestic and global shocks. The result of his exhaustive research led to groundbreaking findings which ultimately won him the Nobel Prize in Economics. For the first time, someone understood how to calculate portfolio risk. The formula shown on this slide is the backbone of what is known today as modern portfolio theory. Simply put, this theory's formula can assist you in determining how much risk your portfolio will carry. Why is this important? The less risk you assume, the more likely you will behave rationally. Let me share with you three key findings that Mr. Markowitz felt were the most important things to recognize. Number one, investments can be classified into what are known as asset classes. Number two, these asset classes will move differently. And number three, when mixed properly, they can reduce volatility. The third finding is truly the most important finding because if an investor can reduce the volatility in their portfolio, they are more likely to achieve their targeted rate of return because they will be less likely to overreact when market conditions change. The investment universe is vast and can be overwhelming. However, Mr. Markowitz found that all registered investments could be classified into one of 21 different asset classes, and they are a subset of stocks, bonds, or cash. Once we've identified where each asset class fits, it is important to understand how they move differently. This was key in Markowitz's theory. Let's go back in time. Remember 1998? This was the beginning of the technology boom. Though stocks were booming, most safer investments like bonds and alternatives were not. Just 4 years later, the tech wreck had decimated stock values. However, notice how bonds and alternatives fared. They did very well, just the opposite in 1998. I don't think any of us have forgotten the year 2008, the Great Recession. It was the single worst year for global stock markets in over 80 years. But notice, all was not lost if you had some exposure to bonds. One last slide to further illustrate how differently things can behave. This graph shows us what happened during the early stages of the COVID-19 pandemic from March through April of this year. This slide clearly shows that there were definitive winners and losers. Now that we've identified how assets should be classified and also understanding how differently they can move during different times, Harry Markowitz's breakthrough was in his understanding of how vitally important it was to mix the investments appropriately. Take a look at these two investments. Which one would you choose? Does it really make a difference? They both earn 9% per year over 10 years. They also appear to have similar volatility or risk. When overlapping the two investments, something very interesting occurs. Because they behaved differently at different times, the volatility was completely erased. So you ended up getting a 9% per year return with no risk. Of course, this would be ideal to find two investments that did this perfectly. The image shown is to illustrate how important it is to spread your investments around to smooth the ride, which ultimately helps control your behavior, and isn't that the goal? Again, this Nobel Prize winning formula should be the backbone to your investment portfolio construction. The ultimate goal over the long run is to get the smoothest ride mathematically possible to achieve your rate of return. As you can see, over the past 35 plus years, there were some bumps along the way, especially in the stock market, but a fully diversified portfolio performed very well with far less volatility. This slide shows how a typical Carpenter's investments look. Most of their life savings are in the annuity, with a nice additional chunk of money in the savings plan, along with some bank savings. Again, this is just typical. We realize you are all different and need to look at this very closely. This slide shows what a typically recommended portfolio for a retired carpenter would look like. Simply put, the more colors means more diversification, which means less risk, and the more likely you will meet your retirement goals. In conclusion, make the customized allocation that is best for you. I genuinely hope you found this presentation both informative and helpful.
Thank you, Paul. So as you saw, a lot of information has been shared around investments and retirement planning. And just a couple quick closing remarks. When you invest your savings, diversify your savings into different kinds of investment products. Don't put all your eggs into one basket. Speak to as many financial advisors as you can. If this financial stuff is all new to you or makes no sense, get a few people's opinion on how to invest your money. Find someone you can trust and feel comfortable with giving them your life savings to invest. And start as soon as possible. You've heard the old adage in the real estate world that the three most important things are location, location, and location. Well, in the financial world, it's start saving and planning as soon as possible. So thank you for tonight and for your time. We hope that you found it informative. Give us a couple seconds as we prepare for the live Q&A period with Paul.